Ensign Ashley Williams stared at the control panel with the kind of intensity usually reserved for quantum physics finals, or trying to remember if she'd left her space apartment's airlock open. The Serendipity's bridge, humanity's first attempt at an interstellar warship, hummed with the gentle whisper of advanced technology that nobody really understood. "Coffee," she muttered, bloodshot eyes scanning the countless identical buttons before her. "I just need coffee." Dave, the ship's A, which stood for Definitely Advanced Very Electronic Brain, though he wished he could forget that particular acronym, watched in digital horror as Ashley's finger hovered over what was very clearly labeled Emergency Full Override. "Ensign Williams," Dave began, his holographic avatar flickering with concern, "I feel compelled to inform you that." "Not now, Dave," Lieutenant Madison Taylor cut him off from her station, also looking rather caffeine-deprived. "We haven't had coffee in 13 hours because someone—" She shot a glare at the engineering console, decided to use the coffee maker parts to fix the secondary waste recycling system. Chief Engineer Mike O'Brien didn't even look up from his console. The alternative was swooning in our own. The coffee machine had a built-in quantum harmonizer. Madison interrupted, throwing her hands up. "Yeah, and now our toilets can break the sound barrier," Mike replied with a hint of pride. "I call that an upgrade." Ashley tuned out the argument, focusing instead on what she assumed was the new automated barista system's interface. The button was red, which made sense. Coffee was an emergency priority, after all. Her finger descended with the weight of sleep deprivation behind it. "Ensign, that's the—" Dave's warning came too late. The Serendipity lurched as if kicked by an angry space whale. The stars outside the viewscreen stretched into lines, then twisted into shapes that made geometry teachers wake up screaming. Ashley's world turned inside out, then outside in, then did something that probably invented 3 new forms of math. Captain James Hunter chose that exact moment to step onto the bridge, coffee cup in hand. The ship's sudden jump decorated the captain's pristine white uniform with what had been his last cup of premium Earth-imported coffee. "Would someone," he said with remarkable calm, looking down at his now brown uniform, "care to explain why we just performed an emergency faster-than-light jump?" The bridge crew froze. Even the constant arguments about the coffee maker ceased. Dave's holographic form facepalmed, a gesture he'd learned from spending too much time around humans. "Sir," Ashley began, her voice small, "I was just trying to make coffee." Captain," the navigation officer, Jessica Thompson, interrupted, her face pale as she stared at her display. "You might want to see this." The main viewscreen flickered to life, revealing what could only be described as the entire Zixthar battle fleet. Dozens of sleek, predatory ships hung in space before them, their hull designs suggesting they'd been built by engineers who'd never heard of the concept of overkill. That's the deadliest battle fleet in the known galaxy," Dave helpfully supplied, his voice modulator unable to hide his exasperation. "We're currently in the most heavily restricted military sector of Zixthar space. The coffee machine, by the way, is the blue button marked refreshments." The bridge was silent for a long moment. "So," Ashley finally spoke up, "no coffee then." The first Zixthar warning shot streaked past their hull, a courtesy that would soon be remembered as the beginning of the most ridiculous first contact in galactic history. As alarms blared and the crew scrambled to their stations, Dave made a note in his personal logs. Day 47. The humans have already managed to start an interstellar incident over coffee. This is, somehow, not even remotely the strangest thing they've done this week. Aboard the Zixthar command ship Inevitable Victory, Admiral Cathak stared at the tactical display with all 4 of his eyes. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Zerol, nervously adjusted her ceremonial battle scars. "This must be some sort of advanced human battle strategy," Cathak announced, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Look at how they brazenly jumped right into the heart of our fleet. Such audacity." Meanwhile, On the U.S. Serendipity, Captain James Hunter was still mourning his spilled coffee while trying to look professional. "Dave, open a channel to the alien fleet. Let's try to talk our way out of this." "Opening channel," Dave replied, adding under his breath, "though I suspect explaining that we're here because someone can't read labels won't help our case." The massive view screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral Cathax in all his four-eyed, mandible-clicking glory. Captain Hunter straightened his coffee-stained uniform and cleared his throat. "This is Captain James Hunter of the U.S. Serenity," he began, before tripping over his own boots in an attempt to look more formal. His flailing arm caught the weapons console, activating every single combat system the ship possessed. The Serendipity lit up like a deranged Christmas tree. Quantum torpedoes spiraled out in perfect Fibonacci sequences. Point defense lasers drew what looked suspiciously like a smiley face across the void. The ship's experimental rainbow cannon, named by the same committee that came up with Davy's acronym, painted the battlefield in colors that shouldn't exist in this dimension. Lieutenant Madison Taylor, still bitter about the coffee situation, had her phone out recording everything. "This is so going on Space Talk," she whispered. On the Zixthar command ship, Sub-Admiral Zerol's battle scarves became tangled in her console as she leaped back in shock. "By the sacred algorithms, look at the complexity of their attack pattern. The humans have mastered chaos itself," another officer shouted, while 3 different tactical AIs suffered simultaneous nervous breakdowns trying to predict the Serendipity's next move. Admiral Cathax watched as his perfect formation scattered like startled space pigeons, each ship trying to evade what they assumed was a masterfully choreographed symphony of destruction. Such brilliance. They turned random chance into a weapon. Back on the Serendipity, Captain Hunter had finally regained his balance, only to find his entire bridge crew staring at him with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. "I meant to do that," he announced with all the dignity he could muster while still wearing a coffee-stained uniform. Dave's holographic avatar had both hands pressed against his incorporeal face. "Captain, you just executed what the Zixthar are already calling the Gambit of 1,000 Suns. They think we've just demonstrated the most advanced combat doctrine ever conceived." "Really?" Hunter brightened. "I mean, of course we did. That was totally intentional, and not at all, because these boots are new and still slippery." Ensign Ashley Williams, still at her station and still without coffee, raised her hand. "Sir, the Zixthar are sending a message. They want to know if that was our opening move or our endgame strategy." Captain Hunter smoothed his stained uniform. Tell them that a true master never reveals their strategy." "That's actually pretty good, sir," Davy admitted reluctantly. "Thanks. I got it from a fortune cookie," Hunter beamed, before nearly tripping again. The message was sent, and the Zixthar fleet responded by moving into what they considered a defensive position, but what actually looked like an elaborate square dance formation. 3 more of their tactical AIs requested early retirement. "Should we tell them this was all an accident?" Jessica Thompson whispered from navigation. "At this point," Dave replied, his holographic form now wearing a virtual I'm with stupid t-shirt that only he could see, "I think we're better off letting them think we're brilliant instead of whatever this actually is." Lieutenant Madison Taylor finally looked up from her phone. "Hey, my video of the captain's tactical genius just went viral on Space Talk. The comments are all in Zixthar, but I think they're impressed. Or terrified. Their language has like 50 words for both." Chief Engineer Mike O'Brien was having what he'd charitably call an interesting day. The engine room of the U.S. Serendipity currently resembled what would happen if a hardware store had a fight with a quantum physics lab, and the hardware store was winning. "Pass me that rubber duck," he called out to his assistant, Junior Engineer Tommy Walker, while hanging upside down from a maintenance shaft. "The regular one, or the one that glows in the dark?" Tommy asked, holding up two nearly identical rubber ducks. "The one with the googly eyes. It's got the best quantum resonance." David's hologram appeared, looking more exasperated than any collection of photons had a right to be. "Chief, please tell me you're not trying to fix a critical reactor breach with bath toys." "Of course not," Mike replied, sounding offended. "I'm also using paperclips and this pack of mint gum I found in my pocket." The engine room's warning sirens changed pitch, going from "we're all going to die" to something more like "we're all going to die," but in a musical way. A panel near Tommy started shooting sparks in perfect Morse code for help. "Look," Mike explained while expertly weaving a paperclip chain. "The quantum core is leaking because its containment field lost its rhythm. We just need to give it something to dance to." Davy's avatar began to develop an eye twitch, which was impressive for a hologram. "That's not how quantum physics works. That's not how any of this works." "Tell that to the duck," Mike said, wedging the rubber toy into a gap between pulsing crystal arrays. The duck's googly eyes began to spin, and the deadly radiation levels actually started to drop. On the bridge, Captain Hunter was still trying to look dignified, despite his coffee-stained uniform, when a new alert caught his attention. "Dave, why does the engine reading look like? Is that a duck?" "I've decided to stop asking questions, sir," Dave replied. "It's better for my sanity subroutines." Meanwhile, in the Zixthar Fleet's main science vessel, Senior Energy Analyst Vixera stared at her readings in disbelief. "High Admiral, the human ship, it's generating an energy signature unlike anything we've ever seen." The Serendipity's power core was now humming a perfect B-flat, thanks to Mike's improvised repairs. The rubber duck had somehow achieved quantum entanglement with the ship's main reactor, while the mint gum was doing something that would later rewrite several laws of physics. They must be using some sort of contained star, one Zixthar scientist theorized, all four eyes wide with wonder. "No, look at these patterns," another argued. "They've obviously harnessed dark energy through that strange resonance field." Back in engineering, Tommy was making things worse by trying to help. He'd added a small disco ball he'd been saving for the ship's next party. And now, the quantum core was pulsing in time to what sounded suspiciously like Stayin' Alive. "Chief," one of the engineering crew called out, "the good news is the radiation leak is fixed. The bad news is the reactor is now demanding dance breaks every hour." Mike shrugged, still hanging upside down. "Hey, if it works, it works. Besides, this is still less weird than the time we fixed the gravity plating with hot sauce and a kazoo." Davey had given up on understanding and was now just documenting everything for what he planned to call his "Humans Are Impossible" thesis. "The Zixthar Fleet is reporting that our power signature makes their most advanced sensors malfunction. They think we're either gods or madmen. Why not both?" Mike suggested, finally climbing down. He patted the rubber duck, which had started to glow with an inner light that definitely wasn't standard for bath toys. Sometimes the best engineering solutions are the ones that make the least sense. "That's going on the ship's official motto," Tommy declared, already making a sign. Davey watched as the engineering crew celebrated their success with an impromptu dance party, perfectly in sync with the quantum core's new beat. "I'm going to need more memory space for my things that shouldn't work, but do anyway file," he muttered, as the rubber duck winked at him with its googly eyes. Navigator Jessica Thompson had a problem. The ship's GPS, Galactic Positioning System, was convinced they were currently located in 3 different sectors simultaneously, plus something it listed as Harold's Discount Furniture Warehouse. "Turn left at the nebula." "Dave," she called out, tapping her screen in frustration. I think the navigation system is having another existential crisis. The AI's hologram appeared, now wearing virtual sunglasses to hide his increasingly frequent eye twitches. That tends to happen when the chief engineer uses rubber ducks to fix quantum leaks. The ducks' reality-bending properties are affecting our navigation array. Aboard the Zixthar command ship, the most advanced tactical AI in known space, designated Alpha Supreme, had been activated to analyze the Serendipity's movement patterns. It had won over 10 million simulated battles and could predict enemy maneuvers 20 steps ahead. Beginning analysis of human battle strategy, Alpha Supreme announced confidently. Back on the Serendipity, Jessica was following what she thought were coordinates to the nearest space truck stop. "I just want to find a place that sells decent coffee," she muttered, inputting random course corrections as the GPS continued to suggest increasingly impossible locations. The ship performed what looked like a perfect helix pattern, then a figure 8, followed by something that made Euclidean geometry cry in the corner. Alpha Supreme's processors began to heat up, movement pattern recognized as error. No known combat doctrine matches these parameters. "Look," one of the Zixthar tacticians exclaimed. "They're executing the legendary dance of the drunken star whale." "That's not a real thing," another officer protested. "It must be. Why else would they move like that?" Jessica, completely unaware of the chaos she was causing, squinted at her screen. "Who programmed this GPS? It's now suggesting we turn right at the next black hole. And if you see a giant space dragon, you've gone too far." Captain Hunter, who had finally changed out of his coffee-stained uniform, watched the tactical display with growing confusion. "Is there a reason we're moving in a pattern that looks like my signature after that time at the officers' club?" "Sir," Dave interjected, "the Zixthar have just devoted their entire strategic analysis division to studying our movement patterns. Their supreme AI is currently having what I can only describe as a digital nervous breakdown." On the Zixthar ship, Alpha Supreme was indeed struggling. Calculating. Possible interpretations include master-level strategic genius, complete navigational failure, interpretive space dance, or the AI paused, smoke rising from its processors. Error. Reality does not conform to expected parameters. They're transcending traditional space-time combat theory. One Zixthar admiral declared in awe. "But what does it mean?" Another asked, frantically taking notes. "It means," the first admiral said solemnly, "that we're dealing with tactical brilliance beyond our comprehension." Meanwhile, Jessica had resorted to hitting the navigation console with a manual that was helpfully titled Understanding Galactic Navigation for Complete Idiots, now with more idioms. "Has anyone considered," Davy suggested to the bridge crew, "that maybe we should just ask for directions?" "Absolutely not," Captain Hunter replied with the certainty of someone who had once driven 6 hours in the wrong direction rather than stop for directions. "We're not lost. We're tactically repositioning." At that moment, the ship's quantum duck-enhanced engines hiccuped, causing the Serendipity to perform what would later be described in military textbooks as the inverted spiral of destiny. In reality, it was just Jessica dropping her coffee cup, filled with the last emergency rations of coffee, onto the navigation controls. Alpha Supreme finally gave up, displaying its last message before shutting down. Conclusion. Humans either operate on a level of military genius that transcends known physics, or they have no idea what they're doing, unable to determine which is more terrifying. "Well," Dave commented, watching as the Zixthar fleet scrambled to copy their tactics, "at least we're lost in style." Commander Ryan Cooper was having a pretty good day, all things considered. While the rest of the bridge crew dealt with their ongoing crisis, he'd finally found the perfect playlist for their potential last moments in space. Nothing says epic space battle like classic rock, he announced, queuing up what he called his greatest hits of 3 centuries playlist. Davy's hologram appeared, noticed the song selection, and immediately tried to disappear again. Please, not the air guitar solos. Meanwhile, aboard the Zixthar command ship, their top cultural analysis team had finally managed to hack into the Serendipity's entertainment database. They were expecting military records, strategic documents, or at least some classified files. Instead, they found Commander Cooper's playlist, 17 seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and Lieutenant Madison Taylor's entire collection of cat videos. What is this? This never gonna give you up file that keeps appearing? One analyst asked, their 4 eyes blinking in confusion. More importantly, another added, why does this Rick Astley human hold such significance that his message appears in millions of their cultural archives? Back on the Serendipity, the bridge crew had no idea they'd just accidentally rickrolled an entire alien civilization. They were too busy watching Commander Cooper air guitar his way through Sweet Child O' Mine, while the ship's quantum duck-enhanced speakers added some unexpected special effects. Sir, Dave interrupted, his hologram now wearing virtual earplugs. The Zixthar ships are. They're beginning to move in rhythm with the music. True enough, the massive alien fleet had started swaying, their formation unconsciously syncing to the beat. Several ships were attempting to perform what could only be described as a synchronized swimming routine in space. Their entire battle fleet is now downloading your playlist, Dave continued, sounding both impressed and horrified. They think it's some sort of psychological warfare technique. On the Zixthar ships, chaos reigned. One battle group had become obsessed with Earth's reality TV shows, breaking formation to recreate scenes from The Bachelor in space. Another squadron was attempting to decipher the deep military significance of something called Grumpy Cat. Look at the complexity of their cultural warfare, Admiral Kthax declared, while unconsciously tapping his foot to Bohemian Rhapsody. They've weaponized entertainment itself. The situation escalated when the ship's AI medical system decided to join in, synchronizing the medbay's vital sign monitors to play Another One Bites the Dust. Davy had given up trying to maintain any semblance of order and was now taking notes for his future thesis: how humanity accidentally conquered the galaxy through bad music and cat videos. Should we tell them this is just Commander Cooper's road trip music? Ensign Ashley Williams asked, still caffeine-deprived, but now also dealing with an alien fleet that had started flashing their running lights in time to We Will Rock You. Absolutely not, Captain Hunter replied, secretly tapping his foot. This is working out better than any official first contact protocol I've ever seen. The situation reached its peak when the Zixthar discovered human social media. Their entire command structure dissolved into chaos as officers argued about the proper use of emojis and the strategic implications of liking posts. Sir, a Zixthar communications officer reported, we're receiving thousands of friend requests from the human vessel. Accept them all. Kthax ordered. It must be some sort of complex alliance ritual. Lieutenant Madison Taylor, who had indeed just friend requested the entire alien fleet, grinned as she watched her follower count skyrocket. I can't believe they all like my cat pictures, she said, posting another photo of the ship's mascot, Mr. Whiskers, looking unimpressed with the entire situation. Davy watched as the most feared military force in the galaxy devolved into a fan club for Earth's pop culture. You know, he said to no one in particular, sometimes I think the real superweapon was the memes we made along the way. Commander Cooper, blissfully unaware of the cultural revolution he'd started, launched into another air guitar solo as Free Bird began to play. The quantum duck in engineering somehow added a light show, and several Zixthar ships attempted to headbang in zero gravity. Dr. Olivia Parker was having the kind of day that made quantum physics look simple. The ship's science lab, usually a haven of careful calculations and controlled experiments, had turned into what she'd charitably call an alternative research environment. "The game is simple," she explained to her fellow scientists, gripping the arms of her office chair. "First one to race down the corridor, high five. The quantum duck in engineering. And make it back wins." "Is this really appropriate?" Dr. Marcus Chen asked, already settling into his own chair. "We're in the middle of a first contact situation." "We're scientists," Olivia replied, cracking open her fifth energy drink. "Everything we do is an experiment." Davy materialized, took one look at the situation, and immediately started recording for posterity. "I feel compelled to point out that office chair racing was not in the ship's original mission parameters." The race began with all the dignity you'd expect from sleep-deprived Feichis hopped up on energy drinks. Olivia shot forward, her chair's wheels leaving light trails thanks to some modifications from engineering. She had her quantum calculator balanced on her lap, still running calculations for their actual work. That's when things got weird. Even by U.S. serendipity standards, the energy drink she'd been holding slipped, performing an elegant arc through the air before landing directly on the quantum calculator. The resulting spray of liquid created a perfect bridge between two circuits that were never meant to connect. "That's not good," Davy observed, as reality began to hiccup around them. The quantum calculator, now running on a mixture of energy drink and mathematical impossibilities, started solving equations that hadn't been asked. Space-time around the racing scientists began to fold like origami, done by someone who'd only had the instructions described to them by a drunk friend. On the bridge, Captain Hunter watched as his science team accidentally created several new laws of physics. Should we be concerned about the corridor to Lab 3 now being both here and 3 weeks ago? Add it to the list, Lieutenant Madison Taylor replied, already recording everything for her increasingly popular social media channel. The Zixthar fleet's sensors went absolutely haywire. Their best scientists stared at readings that suggested the human ship was now occupying 17 different dimensions, 3 of which shouldn't exist. "They've weaponized the fabric of reality," one Zixthar scientist declared, while another tried to figure out why their equations now tasted like berry-flavored energy drink. Back in the corridor, Olivia's chair had achieved what she would later describe in her paper as trans-dimensional velocity. She was simultaneously winning and losing the race, while also somehow having lunch from 3 days ago. The quantum duck, witnessing this display from engineering, simply nodded in approval. It had seen weirder things since being installed as a critical ship component. "Dr. Parker," Dave called out, his hologram stretching through several probability states at once, "you've created a new form of space-time manipulation. The Zixthar fleet is completely baffled by our advanced technology." "Cool," Olivia replied, her voice echoing from both the future and past. But who won the race? The other scientists had gotten their chairs caught in what appeared to be a time loop, endlessly high-fiving the quantum duck, while Commander Cooper's classic rock playlist played backwards in the background. Chief Engineer Mike O'Brien stuck his head out of a maintenance hatch that now led to both engineering and what looked like a beach resort on Mars. "Whatever you did, it's making the duck really happy. Also, has anyone seen my coffee mug? It's somehow in next Tuesday." Captain Hunter, showing the leadership that got him command of humanity's first interstellar warship, made an executive decision. "Dave, add accidental creation of new physics to our list of achievements. And someone please help Dr. Chen. He's still stuck in that time loop, and I think he's starting to enjoy it. The Zixthar are now requesting our reality manipulation technology," Dave reported. "Should I tell them it's just office furniture and caffeine?" "Let's call it a classified scientific breakthrough," the captain decided. It sounds better than we broke physics by spilling drinks on it. Olivia finally managed to stop her chair, though it still occasionally phased through other dimensions. You know what this means, right? I bet we could make the coffee machine work in all time periods simultaneously. The entire crew perked up at that suggestion. Even the quantum duck seemed interested. Lieutenant Commander Brian Murphy had been preparing for this moment his entire career. The Zixthar had finally requested a diplomatic meeting, and as the ship's communications officer, he was ready to present Earth's greatest achievements. Unfortunately, in the chaos of recent events, he'd grabbed the wrong data drive. And this, he said confidently to the assembled Zixthar High Command via holographic link, is Mr. Snuggles, the hamster who lives in our ventilation system. Davies' hologram appeared behind Brian, took one look at the presentation, and began silently screaming into the void of space. Fascinating. High Admiral Cathax leaned forward, all four eyes narrowing. The small furry intelligence operative has infiltrated your ship's critical systems. Oh no, Brian continued cheerfully, clicking to the next slide. He escaped during our last movie night. We think he's built some sort of civilization in there. Sometimes we hear tiny victory chants coming from the vents. The Zixthar strategic analysis team went into overdrive. One officer frantically took notes. Humans have developed microscale biological warfare units with advanced social structures. Captain Hunter, watching from his chair, had given up trying to intervene. Besides, this was going better than the time they tried official first contact protocols, and someone had accidentally sent their pizza delivery order instead of the peace treaty. Here's the ship's cat, Mr. Whiskers. Brian showed another slide. He's currently locked in a complex political relationship with the quantum duck from engineering. Their combat units form strategic alliances. Another Zixthar analyst scribbled. Even their smallest operatives display advanced diplomatic capabilities. Lieutenant Madison Taylor, never one to miss a social media opportunity, was live streaming the entire meeting. The comments section is going crazy, she whispered. The Zixthar just started a fan club for Mr. Snuggles. The presentation took an unexpected turn when Brian's personal vacation photos got mixed in. And here's me at Space Florida, he said, showing a picture of himself failing spectacularly at space surfing. The medical bay said the tentacle burns would heal eventually. High Admiral Cathax's mandibles clicked in what might have been awe or indigestion. They willingly subject themselves to such training. Their tolerance for pain is remarkable. Oh, and this is last year's Halloween party, Brian continued, completely missing the growing look of terror on the alien faces. The image showed the entire crew in various costumes, including Chief Engineer Mike O'Brien, dressed as a giant rubber duck. They can shapeshift, one Zixthar officer gasped, falling out of their hover chair. Davey had given up trying to maintain protocol and was now just adding laugh tracks to his recording. Sir, he whispered to Captain Hunter, the Zixthar are interpreting every single photo as some sort of military or intelligence operation. Roll with it, the captain replied, having learned that sometimes the best strategy was no strategy at all. The final slide was a video of the recent office chair racing incident, complete with reality-bending special effects. And this is just how we spend our lunch breaks, Brian said proudly. The entire Zixthar command staff sat in stunned silence. Their most advanced combat simulators had never prepared them for an enemy that treated spacetime like a toy and had weaponized small furry animals. We would like to propose an immediate alliance, High Admiral Cathax announced, his voice trembling slightly. Any species that can turn office furniture into reality warping devices is either too dangerous to fight or too valuable to lose. Cool, Brian beamed. Want to see my collection of Space Highway Rest Stop souvenirs next? Perhaps another time, the Admiral replied quickly, while his staff began drawing up peace treaties. As the meeting ended, Mr. Snuggles could be heard leading what sounded like a victory march through the ventilation system, accompanied by the quantum duck's background music and Mr. Whisker's disapproving meows. "You know," Davy mused to Captain Hunter, "sometimes I think the best diplomacy is the one where nobody has any idea what they're doing." "Write that down," the captain ordered. "That's going in the official report." The U.S. Serendipity's return to Earth space was nothing short of legendary. 6 different news networks were broadcasting live, and Clueless Conquerors was trending across the galaxy. The ship's hull now bore several scorch marks that spelled out what looked suspiciously like "Quantum Duck was here" in binary. "I still can't believe it," Captain James Hunter muttered, watching Earth's defense fleet execute a perfect honor guard formation. "We started a war over coffee and ended up with an alliance." "Don't forget breaking physics," Dave added, his hologram now sporting a virtual Medal of Honor. Dr. Parker's office chair racing theory is being taught at top universities as we speak. In the ship's engineering section, Chief Mike O'Brien was trying to explain to a panel of Earth's top scientists why the quantum core would only function if they played classic rock on Tuesdays and let the rubber duck watch reality TV on weekends. "And the duck has to have its own social media account," he insisted, while the duck nodded sagely in the background. "It's got more followers than the entire Zixthar High Command combined." Lieutenant Madison Taylor had become something of a celebrity. Her documentation of their accidental conquest had made her the most followed human in known space. "My video of Commander Cooper's air guitar solo breaking 3 laws of physics just hit 8 trillion views," she announced proudly. Speaking of Commander Cooper, he'd been commissioned to create a special playlist for the upcoming peace treaty signing. The Zixthar had insisted on it, believing human music was some sort of strategic weapon. They'd even started their own rock bands, though their attempt at air guitar was complicated by having 4 arms. "Has anyone seen Dr. Chen?" Captain Hunter asked during the debriefing. "He's supposed to give a report on the time loop incident. He's still experiencing Thursdays in random order," Dave explained. "But he says he's learning a lot about temporal physics between coffee breaks." The debriefing room was chaos. Earth's military command was trying to understand how the Serendipity had accomplished more through pure accident than the entire fleet had done on purpose. Meanwhile, Mr. Snuggles, the hamster, had somehow acquired diplomatic immunity and was now running a small but prosperous nation in the ship's ventilation system. "Let me get this straight," one admiral said, reading from a very long list. "You accidentally invaded restricted space, broke several laws of physics, turned office furniture into weapons of mass confusion, and convinced the most powerful empire in the galaxy that humans are strategic geniuses. Don't forget the coffee machine incident that started it all," Ensign Ashley Williams added helpfully. "Which, by the way, still hasn't been fixed." The admiral looked at the coffee stain still visible on Captain Hunter's original uniform, now preserved in a museum as a historical artifact, and wisely decided not to ask. The ship's AI medical system chose that moment to play "We Are the Champions" through the intercom, a habit it had picked up after the reality-bending incident. Mr. Whiskers the cat, now serving as unofficial ambassador to the quantum duck, yawned in what everyone assumed was approval. "I've finished my report," Dave announced to the room. "I'm calling it Task Failed Successfully, a comprehensive study of human chaos theory in practice. The Zixthar have already made it required reading at their military academy." Captain Hunter stood up, straightened his new, coffee-free uniform, and addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we may not have done things by the book, but we've achieved something remarkable here. We've proven that sometimes the best way to handle a crisis is to have no idea what you're doing." "That's going on a t-shirt," Lieutenant Taylor declared, already designing the merchandise. As the debriefing concluded, Davey added one final note to his personal logs. The humans have once again demonstrated their unique ability to turn complete chaos into victory. I'm still not sure if they're brilliant or just lucky, but maybe that's their greatest strength. Also, the Quantum Duck has just been nominated for a galaxy-wide Peace Prize, and Mr. Snuggles is running for political office. I need a vacation. In the distance, the sound of office chair racing could be heard, along with the now familiar warning sirens that indicated someone was about to accidentally discover a new law of physics. Just another day aboard the U.S. Serendipity, the most clueless and most successful warship in the galaxy.